Live action Moana? Well, it's just as much of an empty shell as Mitch McConnell. Here we go. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder. These are honest reviews. I do my very best to tell you exactly what I think about a movie. Now, we kind of already had some indication that this was going to be lacking in depth, because it's really just a physical representation in part of a film we already saw before, done better in a brighter way in animation. The live action adaptations have always been kind of iffy when it comes to Disney, especially the ones we've seen recently. This one is the iffiest of all, making Snow White look a little bit better, despite the fact that it was deceptively marketed as a solid adaptation, whereas this film gets a shot-for-shot representation from the animation, and yet it still feels hollow. So one of the biggest problems that I have with the movie isn't the performance of the actor or the actress. I think they did a fine job. Everybody else in the background did a great job representing what we saw on screen in the animation originally. Even the CGI character Hey is kind of just a fun plaything that they basically used exactly the same way in the animation. Pua, the pig, is in it just as much as he was before. And the ocean is beautifully created using CGI, except for one thing. The little elements of depth, lighting, and color seem to be missing from this film. If I had any major criticism, it was the choices that were made visually that made this just feel really dull. They had an opportunity to play in a world where there's nothing but color, especially the color blue. They could have explored that in a way that they failed to do, not just with the ocean, but with the sky. In fact, the evening and nighttime sky shots were a little disappointing, again, compared with the animation. Now, you're never going to beat Lin-Manuel Miranda's wonderful score, his music, and of course the lyrics. That was always going to be the selling point of the original film. And thank goodness it's here in the second film, and it basically maintains itself in a way that still makes you feel something, if not just a little uneasy. In fact, that was kind of the feeling I had throughout the film. This didn't quite feel right. It has you questioning just how good the animation was. But you shouldn't. You should go back in time and try to remember what you enjoyed about the first film. And then you'll go, hey, I've seen this before, and I just gave this theater $15 or $20 to see it again. And maybe that's worth it to you. But for me, it's not. Look, despite the laughable appearance of The Rock, he does actually deliver some kind of a performance here. And I'm going to say that it is on par with what we've seen from him when he was really dedicating himself to acting. He does a good job of impersonating the Maui character that he did a great job voicing in the original animation. The young lady that replaced the previous Moana does a brilliant job. And for a 19, nearly 20-year-old girl, honors the now 10-year-old film at which she probably saw when she was 10. And look, overall, I can't say that it's an awful movie. I can say that it was unnecessary. And this is where we are in this point in time in Hollywood. And let's just stop it all right here. There's no way to say it nicely. The Rock's not an amazing singer. He can do it and did execute to some extent, but not nearly as well as he did a decade ago. In fact, that's probably 12 years ago since the film is 10 years old. So yeah, probably 12 years ago. And look, the young lady that replaced the original Moana does an incredible job of basically representing the animation. Again, in a shot-for-shot comparison, which you can actually do for yourself at home just with the trailer footage alone, you'll be pretty happy with what you see. The only thing I felt was really a change is when we got to the lair of the crab, where, the shiny thing, the song, did not feel as big. The moment didn't have the same scale. Perhaps they shot it slightly differently, but that didn't contribute positively to what we got on screen. Everything about the story was the same, and you're going to hear that complaint from people, but that's not my complaint. It wasn't that they didn't change the story or adapt it slightly differently. It was that they didn't hit the beat for beat marks exactly the same way the animation did. And I know that's a strange thing to complain about, but it's absolutely the truth. On a very positive note, I'll say the woman that played the grandmother in this version, this live action version, which again, not really all that much live action, in this version, she did a glorious job. She gave us beat for beat what we needed, and she has a beautiful voice. She also should be in a lot of other films. Let's just put it that way. There were only two moments that I felt like were slightly shifted, and one of them was the attack of the Kukamoa, or whatever the little coconut guys are. And of course, as I mentioned before, the, attack of the shiny crab guy. I don't know what his name is. But what I do know is that for CGI art, let me say something positive. When it comes to Te Fiti and the representation as the fire island that had to be changed back into the original island, I'm just going to say that actually worked. And it did feel like the animated version. But then again, CGI is another form of animation. So of course that part worked. Even the scenes at the end of the film are the same, and they're almost beat for beat. If you feel like you see something different, you're gonna have to let me know. Now, you haven't heard me say anything hypercritical here, except for the fact that I just didn't feel anything. This is an empty movie. This is a shell worn by these actors, actresses, and of course the music that we've seen everything before, and maybe slightly better. Which means Disney got everybody in the theater, as I mentioned before, to take another $20 out of their pocket per person and steal it. And that's not what a movie's supposed to be. In fact, if I wanted to see an anniversary edition of something, I'd rather see the original. I don't know about you, but I think I get more value for my money that way. At the end of the day, you're going to have to choose whether or not to go see this, if it's worth sharing with somebody. But if you have access to Disney Minus, or it's somewhere this is available digitally, or maybe you even have the DVD or Blu-ray, save yourself those $20 or more, or whatever it takes for you to get there. You'll have just as much enjoyment watching the movie again, and it won't change your experience one iota. As far as the actual rating, I'm not going to downrate this to the floor, but I certainly can't give it more than a 5 or a 6. In fact, I think this is about a 5 because it did what it was supposed to do for Disney, just not for the audience. So don't expect anything spectacular, and don't spend your money on this. And those are my thoughts. Again, let me know what are yours down in the comments section below. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just never seeing Moana again.